Welcome, everyone, to the Street Dog Podcast, brought to you by the Street Dog Coalition. We are a national nonprofit providing free veterinary care and related services to pets of people experiencing or at risk of homelessness. I am your host, Daria Tavana, and I'm also the Director of Development at the Street Dog Coalition. So on our podcast, we explore the world of animal welfare through the eyes of experts, street dog vets, volunteers, and our incredible partners doing amazing work in the field. We like to share inspiring stories and provide updates on our advocacy work and on some of the latest innovations when it comes to food, veterinary care, everything in between in the world of animal welfare. So if you're tuning in live on Facebook, hello, it is so great to have you here. Go ahead, drop a comment or an emoji down below. Say hello, let us know where you're tuning in from. And please don't hesitate to ask a question or share a comment with us if you feel inspired to. And if you're listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or YouTube, please make sure that you're following the Street Dog Coalition on Facebook so you can also tune in live every episode. And that will give you an opportunity to engage with both me and my guests in real time, which we absolutely love to do. Speaking of guests, very exciting. On today's episode, we have Dr. Tory and Michael Waxman from Sundays with Dogs. Yay! The crowd goes wild. I really need a soundboard for this podcast. I keep saying that. I'm going to have to get one. So Tory and Michael are the co-founders of Sundays for Dogs, an incredibly innovative brand of air-dried dog food known for its all-natural ingredients and commitment to pet nutrition. They are huge supporters of us at the Street Dog Coalition, and we are huge supporters of them. So welcome to the podcast, Dr. Tory and Michael. It's so great to have you.
Thank you. We're super excited to be here, and we think the work you guys do is amazing. So anything we can do to help each other is just awesome.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks for having us. We're super excited to be here.
Yay. Thank you guys so much. So much. And we're all wearing our glasses today, which means we're going to have a very smart conversation because, of course, everyone in glasses is smart. That's how that works.
IQ just went up 10 points for each of us.
Exactly. So why don't you go ahead? This question is kind of for both of you. Why don't you, maybe we'll start with Tory, we'll move to Michael. Tory, maybe you can tell us what inspired you to become a veterinarian and commit your life to caring for animals. And Michael, please also tell us about your story as well.
Yeah, so honestly, I was that 4-year-old that said I wanted to be a veterinarian, and I never grew out of that dream. And I feel really blessed and lucky to have accomplished that goal in my life. I was the kid that threw a birthday party for my dog when I was in 4th grade. I didn't realize how uncool that was at the time, but I thought it was really cool. And I brought invitations to school, and I literally had a birthday party for my dog, not for myself. So that kind of my obsession with dogs and animals in general started at a really young age. We always had family dogs growing up. I grew up with a love for training. I started competing in agility when I was in high school. And so, yeah, I was really cool, in case you're wondering. So that obsession with dogs just really began at a young age. And I also come from a family full of human physicians. I'm the first non-human physician, I will say, in my family, but I come from a family of doctors, and it was just kind of a natural extension that, the dog-obsessed girl in this family would eventually go on to become a veterinarian. So as I said, I feel lucky every day. And yes, I go to work every day, but I don't feel like I work. I really feel so lucky for what I do. And so, yeah, Michael, you want to give a little history on your dog loving history?
Yeah. So, I can't claim to have devoted my entire life since I was 4 to animals at the same level that Dr. Tory has, but my bona fides, my first word was dog, my parents tell me. And I grew up with an unusually high number of dogs. So we were that family who had 5, 6 dogs or something growing up. So fast forward to today, and I run into someone I grew up with, and I tell them I'm running a dog food company. No one is surprised by that. That totally checks out. And yeah, it's sort of in a different path. I like to joke that one of the reasons Sundays exists is because a software engineer married a veterinarian. And, it's one of those things where this began as kind of a curiosity for us. And, when we thought about turning it into a business, it just like was really exciting for us to be able to put a positive dent in the universe around a shared passion. And, both of us, I think, had been spoiled up into that point in our careers of getting to work, doing things we loved. And, Tori was a practicing veterinarian in New York City. And, I ran a dating app startup in my 20s. And so it was sort of like, it was like, hey, like if we're going to do something and pour our life into it, it has to be something that is, positive change in the world that we have a passion for and we love. And so, yeah, we just feel really lucky that, this opportunity existed to, bring a better dog food into the world and help people in dogs. And, it's a fun business to be a part of.
That's awesome. It's a really, and I think, the products that you create and the company that you've established is so unique, so different. I mean, I think that your customers can tell when they land on your website. They can tell whenever they try some of your, they purchase some of the food that you create for their dogs. And it's almost like, of course, these two people from two seemingly different worlds came together to create something totally unique. So it's so interesting to hear about your different backgrounds and your different interests. And I just feel like something as unique as the product that you create, which we're going to get into, can only be made from two very unique people. So it's no shock to me that you have walked different paths, but that your paths have crossed to create this incredible brand of food. So maybe you can give us a little bit of insight, or let me share with people some of the experience I've had with Sundays for Dogs. And apart from this conversation, apart from our previous collaborations, as someone with a little rescue dog named Rocky, he's very cute. He's half corgi, half beagle. I'm shocked he's not barking at a leaf right now, because that's all he does is just barks at leaves blowing in the wind.
Those hound dogs, what are you going to do?
Seriously. Good for cuddling and good for barking at absolutely nothing. So he is your biggest fan. He absolutely loves your food. We first started out by getting a sampler pack, and then we moved up from there. Anyway, when I opened up your human grade food, which we will also get to, the first thing I noticed and got really excited about is the fact that it's air dried dog food. I was kind of taken back to when I used to get the space food from those science museums. Anyway, this is
which is also the best, by the way.
Which is also literally the best. Anytime I go to a science museum and I run into that space food, I still get the space food. So I'm curious to know.
Not to give out Michael's secrets, but he does like the space ice cream, which, like, I don't know how I feel about that.
I think like it's so good. I think it's so good. Hey, never say never. Next step for you, space food for humans. Just saying.
Or for dogs.
Or for dogs. Okay. I love this. So of course, anyone who has purchased your dog food or is interested in purchasing your dog food, the first thing they'll notice is the fact that this is air-dried dog food. So what inspired you to start Sundays for Dogs and specifically create a brand of air-dried dog food that is not from outer space, that is from here?
For dogs on Earth.
New slogan.
So honestly, we made Sundays for our own dogs and continue to do this day. And when we were living in New York City, when we met, I had my scruffy street dog named Mabel. She came in as a stray when I was working emergency overnight. And through my veterinary career and veterinary education, I'd obviously come across many dogs. I'd fostered many dogs, but none of them felt like my dog. Like I hadn't met my dog yet. And one night, this scruffy terrier came in. She was found on the streets. She was hit by a car, but thank God she was fine. Everything was fine. And she came in and I was like, that's my dog. I was like, that is my dog. Like it just, if you believe in divine intervention, this was it. So this dog was sent to me, and ever since then, she has been my constant companion through everything. I like to joke that I've had her longer than Michael, which is true. Accurate. Yeah. So it honestly, Michael asked me why we were feeding her a certain food and is there something better out there? And I said, well, like all the companies that claim to be better, they're really just marketing. It's not actually better. And he was like, well, what can we do that's better for her? And I was like, well, we could home cook, but like, you know, we don't cook for ourselves every night, and we do Seamless and DoorDash. So like, we can't sit here and say we're going to cook for Mabel every night, because that would be a lie. We don't cook for ourselves every night. So long story short, of course, Michael doesn't take no for an answer. So he was like, well, what can we feed her that's better? So we went down the rabbit hole of trying to find a better food for Mabel. And when we couldn't find it, we decided to make it. And honestly, to this day, every batch of food that's made is for Mabel. And I guess we share a few with some other dogs, but it's true. It's honestly like we make it for our own dogs. I wanted to do the best for them. And I love that we can now share it with other dogs. But she still, you know, inspires us every day and reminds us every day that, you know, we really shouldn't be sharing it as much as we are, but that's okay. So it honestly is just like a passion for our own dogs.
Yeah, no, and the only two small things I would add to that, that's a great summary. Just one joke is when we were, just a funny anecdote, during, you know, we launched like right during COVID. And so for a period there, we were shipping Sundays out of our garage. And, you know, we sort of joked that Mabel was sort of like, why are you sending this food away? Like, you know, I'm used to the food coming, like, where is this going? I thought this was all for me. And, you know, the other thing I would say is, you know, to sort of just reflect on like the problem we were trying to solve for ourselves and how that led us to this human grade air dried food. You know, I think there was really this tension of feeling like we had to choose between quality and convenience. And so, you know, kibble was very convenient but low quality. You know, some of the home cooked diets or the refrigerator diets were higher quality but really inconvenient and really expensive. And it was sort of this idea of, wouldn't it be great if we could have it all, right? If we could have it be easy but also really healthy. And then, you know, we had no idea what air drying was, or, you know, even what like were the technical definitions of human grade or any of those things. But we just said, you know, let's try to figure out how to make a food that's both really convenient, but also no compromises, as healthy as possible and as tasty as possible. And we, you know, we literally traveled the world. We explored all sorts of different manufacturing facilities. And we ended up partnering with the USDA monitored jerky kitchen that, you know, makes snack jerky for humans and sold in places like Whole Foods. And we repurposed their equipment to make a dog food. And, you know, in retrospect, I'm surprised they even agreed to let us do that. But, you know, a few years later, here we are.
That's so cool. That it's so interesting to, you know, me as someone that uses the product with my dog, to kind of hear the steps that you took toward creating this finished product. And what's so exceptional about this product is that, it's funny that I'm sitting here being a spokesperson for this product as if I even need to be. But it really is just such an impressive brand of food, because the second that I opened up my first Sundays for Dogs package, the first thing I noticed was, this looks like human food. This smells like human food, but I don't have to cook it. I don't have to do really anything to it, and it's just ready to go. So it's almost like confusing in the coolest possible way. And I really do believe that the kind of food that you're creating is indicative of the future of food for dogs, because I think that now both human health and animal health is being we're really starting to value nutrition and the role that what we put into our bodies has on our health, both as human beings and as animals. So it's very exciting to see individuals start to really take a look at what's in their dog's food. And unfortunately, for most of us, when we take a look at what's in our dog's food, it's horrifying. It's horrifying. It's food that we would never imagine eating ourselves. And then, you know, we kind of feel like we're at a loss as to what to do, because like you said, we don't have the time to cook food for ourselves half the time, let alone for our beloved pets. So maybe you could tell us a little bit more about these all natural, really nutritious ingredients used in Sundays for Dogs food and how they actually benefit our dog's health.
Yeah, so our recipes are unique in that our recipes are over 90% meat, and we use a variety of different meats, including, things like chicken breast and ground beef, which, are familiar to all of us. But then also we use a lot of organ meats, which are great because unfortunately organ meats are not used a lot in the human food chain. So they're produced. And so, chicken hearts are made when they, process chickens, but unfortunately a lot of those go to waste. And so we're able to obtain ingredients like chicken hearts, which are incredibly nutritious and honestly a lot more nutrient rich than like a chicken breast. And so we use a ton of organ meats in our foods, which provide a great deal of nutrition, which is awesome. And the dogs obviously love them. And then so our recipes are about 90% meat, and then it's about 10% fruits and vegetables, and a small amount in that 10%, about a small amount of gluten-free grains such as quinoa or oat flour. All of our ingredients, we purchase them through basically restaurant supply stores. Like when we purchase our fruits and vegetables through these large supply places, they're shipping the same exact ingredients to human food manufacturers and bakeries and restaurants. And so we are kind of just basically plugged into the same kind of food chain as the human food world. In addition, every single one of our ingredients is kind of in there for a reason. Providing, vitamins and minerals and nutrients. And, we worked with veterinary nutritionists. Even though I'm a veterinarian, I'm not a board certified nutritionist. So we obviously worked with a variety of veterinary nutritionists, including boarded nutritionists and then also PhD animal nutritionists, to make sure that our foods were up to standard, especially because what we were doing was so unique. And so it took us over 100 iterations to get to our first recipe, just because there was so much trial and error, because what we were doing hadn't been done before, which we were told many times we were crazy and not to do it, which makes you, want it even more.
Oh yeah.
I was like, oh, you don't think we can do this? Okay, well, now we're definitely going to do it. So, because of that, because what we were doing was so new and no one had done it before, it was a lot of trial and error, but it was totally worth it to get to the final recipe that lived up to our standards. And so we take, every single ingredient that we put into our food very seriously. And as I said, it all comes from the same, human food manufacturers and providers that, go to the grocery stores and restaurants and things like that.
The biggest problem with that is, we have pumpkin in all of our recipes, which is really valuable digestive aid for dogs and a superfood packed with lots of, B vitamins. But, during, spice pumpkin latte season, it's tougher to get. And, we have to,
seriously, we have to buy our pumpkin earlier in the year, because do not try to buy pumpkin during October.
Wow. Good to know. Good to know.
And also, of course, now one of our 3 recipes is turkey. So, we got to buy a little extra turkey ahead of Thanksgiving so we don't run out. And, but it's literally the same food that we eat as humans.
And it's amazing to hear you say this. And let me actually just layer in a comment from, funny enough, the Street Dog Coalition's medical director, Dr. Hillary Wheeler, is tuning in live on Facebook. Hi, Hillary. And Hillary says, as a DVM trained in integrative veterinary medicine and nutrition, I am thrilled to learn about this diet as another healthy option for my patients and my own dogs. It's so great to see a pet food company working with a veterinary nutritionist and providing human grade ingredients. Yes. When I tell you we love your product, we love your product. Thank you so much, Hillary. Hillary especially really loves your product. And we oftentimes are reminded of how much we love your product when we are face to face with other products. And I don't want you to, of course, knock your competitors, but it's so interesting when you say that you have such a high percentage of animal meat in your products. I think a lot of people assume that the food that they're giving their dogs, just their regular dog food, consists mostly of chicken or beef, because on their bag of dog food it says chicken flavored or beef flavored. But I guess you've noticed that this is not the case. Is that right?
Well, it's actually the labeling of pet food that's a 3-hour long, boring, presentation. But no, the rules on pet food labeling are very confusing. And one thing as a veterinarian that I had a really big issue with is that I felt like food companies were, making these fancy bags, but then if you look at the back of the bag or really look into it, it's really just all marketing. And so when Michael and I set out to do this, I said, we will have no explanations on our bag. We will have no asterisks. Like, our food is our food. And so, one big thing for that was almost every dog food on the market, it says all natural. And then there's a small asterisk and it says with added vitamins and minerals. And I said to Michael, if we're going to make our food all natural, we're going to make our food all natural. We're not going to have any added vitamins and minerals, which was extremely challenging. So instead of adding, potassium citrate to increase the potassium level in our food to get to the required AAFCO level, we added zucchini, which is a great natural source of potassium. And so that's what made it so challenging to kind of do what we were doing. But I felt really strongly that if we were making these claims, that we were, being truthful and that there was no explanation needed. For example, when we say we're human grade, we are human grade from our ingredients to our production, to our packaging, to our fulfillment, to every aspect of the product we produce. A lot of companies will say, oh, well, we use human grade ingredients, or we're manufacturing a human grade facility, but not every single part of their process is human grade. And so I said, Michael, we're not going to have explanations. If we say we're all natural, we're all natural. If we say we're human grade, we're human grade. And it honestly took a lot of time and money to get to that point, but it's all worth it, because as I said, as a veterinarian, I felt really strongly about that.
Yeah. And I give Tory a ton of credit for holding us to really the highest standards that I think have ever been set in the pet food world. And, for people watching or listening who might not be as familiar with sort of like the nitty gritty ways that pet food is made, the thing you have to realize is that, 95% of pet food or whatever it is that's hot extruded kibble is made in this like very specific manufacturing process that has all these constraints. And really the only way to kind of go beyond that was to invent a new process and kind of like not play by those rules of manufacturing, but just, to reflect on what those rules are for a second. Basically kibble is a dough that is like cooked under extreme heat and pressure. And so you need a ton of starch. In the traditional process, you can actually only have 25% of your ingredients can have any moisture in them. So it's basically, flour, and then fresh fruits, vegetables, and meat all has to be 25% or less. And then you're, processing in such a harsh way that a lot of those nutrients are lost. And then the way you end up making for that is like basically just like sprinkling in a lot of synthetic vitamins and minerals at the end. So it's almost like, rather than getting your nutrients from like a fresh salad, you're sort of like, nuking a potato or something and then like pouring vitamins on top of it. And then people are stunned that, their dogs don't like the taste of the food or something. And so, it was one of those things where it's like, for us, thinking outside the box meant if we wanted to achieve this quality and convenience that hadn't been done before, we had to leave behind the old way of making dog food. And, as Tory mentioned, it was a really long road. It took us years of trial and error to even get to the starting line. But, we're really thankful that we did and that it worked out, because it may not have, we could have, but yeah. So
especially launching in March 2020, did not time that well, but
wow. Anytime I hear March 2020, I am triggered. Anytime I hear 2020, I am triggered. It's so cool. It's so cool to hear the process that you went through to create this product. Because I think that, and I'm sure that individuals who have tried your product, or individuals who feel inspired to try it after listening to this conversation, will notice from the packaging to the product itself that it really, it feels like a labor of love. It feels like this beautiful small business, like the world's best kept secret, and you're wondering why this is a secret at all. So it is really, really beautiful to hear that you put your blood, your sweat, and your tears and your wallet into truly blazing your own trail and not just going through the motions of creating a pet food based on how others have done it, and prioritizing instead transparency, health, human grade ingredients every step of the way. And I cannot stress to our listeners enough. Everyone's like, is Daria eating this food? Why does she love this food so much? I'm not eating this food, but I can attest to me from a customer experience. When I buy this product, I feel like I can rest a bit more at ease, because it's so clear just from looking at the product and looking at the packaging that it's an incredible brand of dog food. And Hillary's chiming in again. Hillary says, this may have already been mentioned, but does Sundays meet WSAVA guidelines? My veterinary colleagues who are more skeptical and not familiar with the importance of truly holistic nutrition, organ meats, fermentable vegetable carbs, sources, etc., will definitely ask this question. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yes, we do meet with SAVA guidelines, and we do have a nutritionist on staff who helps us with all of our recipes and formulations. And so, as a veterinarian, as I said, I hold ourselves to a really high standard, and getting a nutritionist on the team was a big thing for me, and something that I'm really happy that we have now. And in addition to her, we work with, as I said, other nutritionists as well, just to make sure, we're dotting our I's and crossing our T's and holding ourselves to the highest standard. Anything to add on to that?
No, I mean, the only thing I'll say as a little bit of a knock on the WSAVA guidelines, though, is they are literally like invented and defined by like a lobbying group representing the largest dog food manufacturers. And so it's a little bit like, so it like some of the criteria are like very difficult for a small brand like ours.
Interesting.
To meet. And it's, sort of this classic regulatory, pull up the ladder. So it's tough, harder for other companies to compete with you. But again, to Tory's credit of just holding us to a high standard, as we've, gained a little bit more momentum and resources, we're able to do things, such as get a staff nutritionist and so on, so that we can meet all of the guidelines.
And the other thing too is we're always, as a veterinarian, I'm always making sure that, our products are kind of in line with the most up-to-date research in current veterinary medicine. So a big thing for us when we launched was there was that FDA study that came out that showed for a possible correlation between legumes such as peas and chickpeas and heart disease in dogs. I don't know if you're familiar with this whole controversy. And so there was a strong correlation. There hasn't been a true causality proved, although there is evidence of a possible correlation, and smaller studies have come out with possible causation. And so when we were designing our recipes, we decided we are not including any legumes or potatoes in our diets in case that is an issue. And so that was something that we felt, we were like, you know what? They're very inexpensive and they're high in protein, which is why a lot of dog food companies use them. But we decided that it was just not worth the risk. And even though there hasn't been a paper, 100% proving that causation, I think the correlation was enough for us to say, hey, let's just stay away from these ingredients. And so we don't have any peas or legumes or potatoes in any of our diets.
Yeah. And it's funny, like on this theme of sort of going just above and beyond kind of the requirements, something we were just talking about this week that I don't even know what's like the sort of like legally, fair way to say this, but something I feel like we should share with our customers more. So, that's a great example Tory shared of going kind of above and beyond even the latest, like, veterinary nutritionist, nutritional science. In our manufacturing standards, we actually also go above and beyond, not just for the pet food world, but also for the human food supply chain. Because remember, our manufacturing partners primarily make food for, snack jerky that's sold in Whole Foods that's eaten by humans. And so, one of the things we kind of learned somewhat recently is we were, looking at our food safety protocol and comparing it with, what these like human food manufacturers do. And one of the things we actually realized is that, our standards are like 10 times higher than theirs. And it's one of those things where it's like, because we didn't know, we just sort of worked for first principles of, hey, what would we want for the food that we feed our own dogs? We'd want to test every batch for consistency in microbiology. We want to practice controlled release. And so we don't send out food to customers until we get the lab results back and so on. And then we just kind of assumed that that's how other people did it. And we were like, oh, hey, like how do these big, like, multinational companies that you've heard of do it? It's like, oh, they do way less than that. And we're like, wow, that's interesting.
Yeah. So for every batch we produce, we do microbial testing, nutritional testing, and then we have a bag sent to our house where I open the bag and inspect, a bag from every batch to make sure it meets our standards, which is Mabel's favorite day and favorite part of my job. But yeah, so we, as I said, and I'm not kidding, we make every single batch of food for our own dogs.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful. And Hillary says that she respects and understands just how much effort and expenses that you've invested in formulating your product. I mean, I love it. You are the overachiever's dog food. But what's so funny is, and I mean this sincerely, is that you have also played a role in making sure that your incredible dog food does not just land in the hands of only people who know about it or only people who are looking for small businesses to support. And one of the ways in which you've done that is by helping us and our work at the Street Dog Coalition, both financially and through in-kind dog food donations. And I know I did this before the call started, but first and foremost, I want to thank you so much again for the millionth time for doing that. It's so great because I think oftentimes there is this misconception that, good food is only for people who can afford to have expensive food. And unfortunately, there are a lot of companies that are kind of reinforcing that reality. But from my user experience, I think that your food is very fairly priced. And there is a link in the show notes for anyone who's interested in trying out Sundays for Dogs. But you've really, I think, gone the extra mile by supporting our work financially and through in-kind donations. And I just want to know if maybe you can give us a little bit of insight into why it's important to you to support pets of people experiencing homelessness through this incredible dog food.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I love Street Dog Coalition's mission, and obviously love even more because Sundays was inspired by a true street dog in Mabel. And as a veterinarian, I obviously love dogs and think the world of them. But even more importantly, I have a deep appreciation for that human-animal bond and that human-canine bond. And I think that bond is something that those of us who are, blessed enough to have that in our lives realize just how important it is and how much it can improve our lives. And so if we can help people keep their dogs healthy and help them maintain that bond and that relationship, I think we can just help people so much more. And so the idea of being able to help people through their dogs is just such an inspiring mission. And I think just goes along so much with kind of our values and everything that we do here at Sundays.
Yeah, no, that and one story I'll share too that I don't think we've shared at a podcast before, and wrote a small blog post about this many years ago before anyone probably looked at our blog. But early on, I think in like the first few months we were making Sundays, so this was around 2020. We basically were switching like fulfillment centers where we were shipping the food. And so we had, maybe like a dozen or so boxes of extra food that were at this warehouse in Cincinnati. And, long story short, it didn't make sense to like ship them to like another place to ship out. And so we basically had these like dozen boxes that we needed to do something with. And I think we ultimately, in a very sort of like kind of casual way, we're like, look, like do whatever you want with them, like take them, donate them somewhere, just sort of do what you want with them. And it's funny because I literally didn't even know what happened to them until a couple months later. We got this just note out of the blue from a shelter in Cincinnati that just said, thank you so much. As it turned out, these boxes were actually donated to a shelter in Cincinnati, and it ended up becoming a huge part of their daily operations, because one of the benefits of Sundays is that because it's 90% meat and it's this jerky texture, it's more like a snack than a food. So it's highly palatable, and dogs love the taste of it. And so they sent us this long note of, it's changed our shelter. Now when dogs are scared and, and they, we're taking them on and they don't want to eat, we use Sundays to kind of make sure they're, keeping on weight. And so, that was like in the early months of Sundays. And so, we realized that, there's also this like specific aspect of our food, in addition to obviously all the health benefits and the convenience benefits, that, could actually be used as a tool in shelters. And so frankly, I think it's something we can even do a lot more of, just because it, can be this tool in a toolkit of a shelter.
I love that. That's such a great point. I would have never thought of, and it's so interesting to hear firsthand from you the implications of having a delicious dog food. It doesn't just begin and end with, great, my dog will love to eat it, but it can actually transform a dog's relationship to the space in which they're living in, to the people who are taking care of that dog. So I think the story that you shared about the shelter is so awesome, so cool, so beautiful, and just indicative of the power that you both have in creating this incredible product. And Hillary has said that as the medical director and as the co-team lead for the Bay Area team, she's really grateful for your support. I'm really grateful for your support, and I want to just wrap up this conversation by letting our audience know that if they're interested in giving Sundays for Dogs food a try, to please go ahead and check out the link in the show notes. And I think the first thing that I bought from you guys was this really cool sampler pack, which my family dog Rocky devoured instantly, as beagle corgis do. Just without I don't even think he smelled it first, or maybe he smelled it through the box and lost his mind. But really, it is to date his favorite food, and I think there's something to be said about the fact that it is our favorite food to give him, because we know you both. We're fully aware of the amount of time and energy and money that goes into creating this incredible product, and I think there's something to be said about knowing that the food you're giving your animal is going to help them live a long, healthy life. So please, 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 if you're listening to this episode, this is not a paid advertisement at all. In all seriousness, I just love this food, and I think that I think that's what gives you guys such a really fantastic supporter base, is that everyone loves your food. It sells itself just by looking at it and giving it to your dogs.
We appreciate the kind words so much. And something I would say that, like, the way we kind of authentically feel about it too, like I seriously think that our food is way ahead of like our marketing and our ability to talk about the food, where it's just kind of like, hey, priority one was making the world's best dog food, and we're just now kind of catching up to how do we talk about it, how do we get the word out. And so really, I think just trying some, we have various sort of like samples that we offer, or starting with the small box, or starting mixing it in or using as a snack or something. We think that you'll be pleasantly surprised by, how the smell, how much you like it, how much your dog likes it. But again, sort of don't take our word for it, check it out, because, frankly, it's, better than our ability to talk about it.
Well, I think you're totally underselling your ability to talk about it, but that's just my opinion. And I love that. And I think that's what's so beautiful about our partnership. your company and our organization is that we've kind of been around, each of us, for a few years, but we're really at this pivotal point now of growth. Just like you're getting better at talking about your product, apparently we have a podcast now where we talk about what we do and where we talk about the work of our partners and our supporters. So baby steps. And
Well,
I think
we love to say startup years are like dog years. So, it's a couple years old, but it's really like 20 years. So,
okay, I'm taking that to our next staff meeting.
Go
I feel
for
a
it.
lot, I
Go
feel a lot
for it.
better now. Dr. Tory and Michael, thank you so much. Again, from the bottom of my heart, thank you for making such an incredible product. Thank you for supporting us. And again, I want to encourage our audience members to follow Sundays for Dogs on all forms of social media, and to visit their website in our show notes and place your first order. It won't be your last. Such an amazing product. And it's just incredible to have you both on this show. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Well, thank you so much for having us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. This was great.
Absolutely. And I'm sure you'll be hearing from me soon. I think I have an email from Caitlin waiting in my inbox, which I'm going to go now respond to.
Yeah, I was gonna say, sounds about right.
Thank you, Dr. Tory. Thank you, Michael. And thanks to everyone for tuning in. Until next time.